Hello, dear friends. We're sincerely happy to welcome you again. Today we are going to talk with the esteemed Igor Mikhailovich Danilov.
Greetings.
Igor Mikhailovich, your words from the previous conversation evoked a great response. If you received the truth and didn't pass it on to another person, it is the same as killing the truth. This is the point of the truth, that it's alive as long as it is passed on from soul to soul and as long as it is fueled with this very power. And each of us has a wonderful, powerful, and strong tool for sharing this truth. It is the Word. It is through the Word that the truth has come to each of us, and through the Word we can pass it on to people. Yes, sometimes by repeating it over and over again, by presenting the information from different perspectives. But we should do everything possible so that it reaches every human being as personality. So a question arises, what actually prevents people from taking this path of action? And those people who already actively share information, those people who inform about the Creative Society project and share the primordial knowledge, they share in their stories that one of the biggest barriers on the way to action are thoughts, the thoughts of the following kind. You are unable to do anything. You have nothing to say. They will laugh at you. Do not disgrace yourself. Just who do you think you are? I'm not in the right mood today. I'm too tired today. What about doing it in a week or maybe tomorrow? And once again, we talked ourselves out of action. We promised and put it off until tomorrow, but everything repeated itself all over again. Meanwhile, inside, there was a growing sense of guilt, also because of the time spent in vain. The question is, what is at the root of such thoughts and such halting of action? How can we overcome this barrier? How can we finally get moving, take action, and share the truth?
Actually, everything is simple. But what stops us, friends, is our shaitan. In fact, no matter how you twist it, our consciousness, even when we understand, feel, and know that it is necessary to do this,
Yes.
we strive and want to. But in our consciousness, there arise a lot of counter-arguments that immobilize us, like, what people will think of us. I will go there now, but no one is waiting for me there. I mean, there is a group there. They're busy building the Creative Society. And then I come there. I come and just say, well, hello, huh? Who's waiting for me there? And there are many other thoughts. You are awaited, friends, and very much awaited. Every person is needed. That's one side, while the other side is our learned inaction, so to say, which has been hammered into, let's say, our genetic code for 6,000 years already. That is, all the previous generations actually existed in slavery. Those were people who couldn't even say a word. They couldn't even defend their rights because they existed without rights. Almost like the entire humanity exists nowadays. Something is allowed, but many things are forbidden. If you say or do something wrong, that's it. You're already punished. And this very fear of punishment, the fear of being judged by other people, by and large, holds a person back. Or let's put it simply, that very demon in our heads is reigning and holding us as personalities in slavery. And as long as inside we are slaves of shaitan, we cannot even open our mouths and say the right word. Yet, what is needed for that? A simple question. Just to stop being a slave of Satan. If you feel the truth inside, if you love God, if you love people and this world, if you want to leave it for other people, for your descendants, it doesn't matter, just for people, then it seems to me it is wrong to be silent, to be afraid. Yes, we are afraid since we are people. We have been brought up this way. But as long as we are afraid, nothing will change. And if we look at it sensibly, do we like it when they turn us into slaves? In the literal sense of the word, slaves. In everyday life, We are dependent on everything. We have minimal rights. If we just look at it, in ancient times, slaves had even more rights than a contemporary human has, as paradoxical as it sounds. But this is true. The owner took care of his slaves, while sometimes no one cares about us at all. We have delegated authority which should belong to every human, and they forget about us. They simply forget that we are humans. Moreover, there is constant intimidation and punishment. For instance, in post-Soviet countries, the year 1937 is alive for everyone, let's say. It is even genetically transmitted. Thus, everyone is afraid. Because in reality, in some countries, people are a little bit freer, while in some other countries, there is total tyranny. As a matter of fact, we are not even allowed to tell the truth. This is really so, and that's what we are afraid of. But in reality, the creative society, and even the conveyance of truth as such, of that very knowledge, it all takes place within the framework of the legislation of any country. Nobody violates any laws. Well, other people will say, we do not violate laws. But what will they think of me? In other words, this is a judgment by another demon. And do you know what the paradox is? People are afraid to go out in the street and start telling strangers about the creative society. But what are they afraid to say? And why are they afraid? They are afraid of strangers. Pardon me, we live in the 21st century. 1/5 of the 21st century has already passed, while we continue to be afraid of each other, because we have always been divided. We don't even have an understanding of what unity is, and what one united civilization is, because we exist in separate, fragmented egregores. We are actually more enemies to each other because we have been taught that a stranger is a priori our enemy. But we haven't been told that there are no strangers, that all of us are united, and that we are all very, very close relatives because there is a soul in each of us. Meanwhile, the soul is a single and indivisible whole, despite the fact that it is in each of us, and it is individual for everyone, as they say. But it is part of a single whole organism, the boundless and eternal one. Hence, we are nothing but a part of that organism, and we are guided not by the highest values, not by the fact that we are all near and dear ones to such an extent that we as personalities are of the same nature. But yes, in the material world, we are divided. We all have our own skin color, our own language. We are a little bit different from each other. But that's all, you know? Like a cocoon on a butterfly. Yes, everyone has a different cocoon, but when it falls off, the butterfly is the same for everyone. And this is what makes us related, and very much related. But without understanding and knowing this, and when we listen to the demon in our head who controls us, no, those are merely thoughts, but they stop us and don't give us an opportunity to realize what every person wants. After all, those people, the volunteers of the Creative Society, who go out in the streets around the world, having overcome this demon within themselves, in the name of the future of all humankind, including their own future. They go out and start talking to people, simply to strangers, and very quickly they become convinced that all people are good, and no one has ever scolded or insulted anyone for offering to listen to the information about the Creative Society. Well, when they meet people who are even more intimidated by the demon in their heads, those ones just listen humbly, take the information, and quietly go away. While in most cases, the vast majority, we can say 90% of people, enter into dialogue with them and very actively support the Creative Society. Why? Because it is something that resonates with everyone. Just look. If you really think about it, how can you not tell a person what awaits him in the creative society? What's wrong with a person finding out that he will have a monthly basic income? Well, recalculated based upon today's money, it is $10,000 minimum, but maybe even more. It's up to people to decide. What is $10,000 every month for each person? Is it bad? Think about it. If you received this basic income every month just for being a human being, would it be good or bad for you? Would that money be handy for you or not? Would that money be superfluous for your family, in which everyone would receive it or not? In addition, prices are fixed. There is no inflation of any kind. There is no increase in commodity prices. The price is the same all over the world. For example, the price for that very bread, meat, clothes, and anything, including that very smartphone or TV set, is absolutely the same across the world, and nobody has the right to raise that price. To improve the quality, yes, one or another manufacturer has a right to do that. And by improving the quality and lowering the price, not raising it, but lowering it, people will be able to compete with each other. Is that bad? Let's look at it from a consumer's point of view. After all, we live in a consumerist format where the main thing is what? Money and our ability to buy something, right? After all, we've been taught that and brought up this way, that we must consume all the time, buy something, because of different types of marketing and advertising. It all stimulates us to consume, right? Tell me, if we have money and opportunity, will it be good or bad for the economy? I think it's great, isn't it?
Yes, right, of course.
Also, it's a different kind of economy. Currently, some people also do not understand what will the economy be like in the creative society, and they take the form of the very economy of the consumerist format and try to somehow mold it onto the creative society. But those are different things. You know, it's like trying to pull a little kid's clothes on a tall adult. It won't fit. So it's the same here. It doesn't fit and doesn't work out because they think differently. Yet, if we look from the perspective of the creative society, this universal basic income stimulates development of the economy. It increases purchasing power, and during the transition period, this is just wonderful. Why? Because people will be able to earn. First of all, goods turnover will progress as well. Finally, people will at least be able to taste something they've never tasted, wear something they've never worn, buy that model of phone which they want, and buy themselves a TV set they want. You see? Immediately, from the first steps, people's hands become untied. Another important thing is that there will be no taxes. That is, a person will have nothing to worry about. There will be just no personal taxes. And sorry, but there should be no taxes for small and medium-sized businesses as well. Why? Because when people earn money, they immediately spend it somewhere. They help their families, relatives, and friends, and provide them with jobs. Thanks to that, the turnover increases even more, and opportunities expand. Nowadays, in the consumerist format, all money belongs to someone. And if we have earned it, they sort of give it to us to use. And look at what happens as a result. We've earned a certain amount of money. We've been saving it, for instance, and we have decided to go on a trip somewhere, okay? So we've decided to go on vacation, so to say. At the present time, we can buy a certain amount of goods or services with this money. But as long as we have lived until our vacation, sometimes a significant part of this money has been simply eaten up by the so-called inflation. And what is inflation? A simple question. After all, it is man-made. It is not a self-forming phenomenon. It is actually an artificially created problem, so that people would always worry about a piece of bread, so that a person, after receiving a salary, wouldn't have enough money to live to the next salary. You see? Thus, prices go up, inflation is progressing, and no matter how much money a person earns, no matter how much he accumulates these pennies to make his life easier, to improve it at least a little bit, he becomes poor again. I'm talking about us, the majority of people, and not about those few individuals who manipulate money and everything else, and who supposedly have a good life. They have their own problems, and their life is not as good as it looks, from our perspective of an ordinary person. The more money a person has, the more problems and worries he has. Money actually gives neither happiness nor joy, nor does its amount or anything else solve anything. No matter how much a person earns, first of all, it is never enough for him. And the more money he has, the more problems he has too. Eventually, having earned a little more money, he already needs to somehow protect it a little bit more, to keep it and try not to lose it. Money will be the only thing he will think about. Meanwhile, where your thoughts are is where your heart is. That's the point. Isn't it true? If you worry about something and think about it, that's exactly what you live by. However, when you leave your body, my friend, what will you take from this world? Nothing. If anger, hatred, anguish, or sorrow predominates in you now, it will be that load which you will take along. Meanwhile, what does the knowledge, true knowledge, give? The one which the devil doesn't allow one person to convey to another. This knowledge precisely gives joy and love, lightness and freedom. Tell me, what is better to take with you after your body ceases to function? Eternal life, joy, and God's love, or sadness, sorrow, and eternal existence in hell in a state of subpersonality. Tell me, is it worth helping another person when he is in big trouble? A simple question.
It is absolutely necessary.
It is worth it. So when we do not convey the truth, when we do not share the knowledge, we deprive a person of help at this time. This is worth thinking about. And when the demon forbids us to talk to other people, when he immobilizes us, and when the demon tells us in our heads that, while spreading the true knowledge and building the creative society, we should be invisible to the system. We shouldn't do anything. We should sit and be silent.
Build the creative society in silence.
Right, or build the creative society in silence. But how can we build the creative society in silence if the most important thing at this stage is to inform people, while we will build it in silence? Are we going to sit in prayer or meditation? Or let's say, recite a mantra for building the creative society? We will pray that when a person's body dies, he would gain life and God's love. But there is no such thing in him. There is anger and hatred in him. There is slavery in him, imposed by his own shaitan. Where will God's love appear in him if he hasn't deserved it, if he hasn't generated it in himself? If he has lived all his life as a slave of shaitan, from where will love for Allah appear in him? Just tell me. That's the answer. And if we haven't given it to him, it means we have robbed him. We have doomed him. Meanwhile, shaitan says, sit and pray. Allah is merciful. God is omnipotent. He will do everything himself. He himself will give everything. Thus we have been sitting in slavery for 6,000 years. We continue praying, waiting, and relying on God. I'm sorry, this is the world of matter. Yes, God is in each of us, and He manifests His divine essence when it is us, exactly us, who allow it to manifest. But when we are slaves of shaitan, when the demon controls us, excuse me, can God really manifest? Do you know which way the greatest mercy of Allah is manifested? It is when we share our love and our knowledge with other people, when we share our personal experience, when we share our life with other people, when we do not condemn other people to eternal suffering and torment, when we tell them in time, not when we sit and mumble something in prayer, hoping for a miracle, and when we do not aspire to practice magic, but really by God's will. we share His love, which He gave us, with other people. And when people receive this knowledge, they gain this love, and they shake off their hatred and sorrow. They leave their grief on earth and give it back to Shaitan, because it is he who brought it to them. It goes to the one it came from. Then, these are already Shaitan's problems, whereas a human as personality becomes an angel, and after the death of his physical body as a worthy one, he stands among the worthy before God Himself. Is that really a bad thing? But it's another thing. If we deprived that person, if we were immobilized by someone's demon in the head, if we listened to that demon, and we are silently building the creative society while doing nothing at that, yes, we want to have an apartment or a house of at least 60 square meters per person. And if there are 4 people in the family, just count. That will be a decent house. It's a place where a person can live safely. We want a basic income. We want to travel around this world safely, so that nobody turns out our trunks, looks into our bags, or demands any documents from us. We want to live like humans. We want to be masters on this earth, as the Lord God commanded us. After all, God said that this world is ours. However, we have forgotten that. We have given it to others. We have exchanged it for the torments that the devil sends to us, for suffering and fears. We immobilize ourselves by listening to the stupidity imposed on us, merely of someone's thought. But when we step over Satan, when we go out and start communicating with other people, we see a fire of joy ignite in their eyes when they meet what they have been dreaming of. And they understand that this can be done absolutely legally, without violating any laws, neither those of their country nor international laws. We can change the world for the better without destroying anything, without creating revolutions. But honestly and humanely, we can unite. And for the first time in the entire history of humanity, our humanity, we can build one united civilization, which means to create a single egregore, and our capabilities will increase so dramatically that even our science fiction writers haven't described that. This is really true. We can live in a world where there is free healthcare, free education, free electricity, free energy in general, in a world where everyone is a friend to everyone, first and foremost, where there is no crime. Why? Because it is not needed. And those very modern technologies can protect our lives. Instead of serving the interests of small groups of people who banally direct these technologies to our destruction. After all, as of today, in the consumerist format, there are many elites with their own interests that force us to fight against each other, that make us hate each other, that divide us. But such are the laws of the consumerist format. And those who are now dividing us and forcing us to fight against each other, to fight economically, to fight physically, and to destroy each other. They are also people, and they want to live in a wonderful world. They want to be loved and respected, and not to hide all their lives behind guards who also think of how to rob or destroy them. After all, the world we live in is wrong. This consumerist format is perverted. It is dominated by the laws of animal life, anti-human and improper laws. But the format itself, this very consumerist format, is exactly a part of manifestation of the beast in this world where, even the messengers from God Himself were persecuted and killed. Well, what else can we say here? I'll put it this way, there is something to say, that we can change everything, And we can build a world where every person will be welcome and where every person's life will be of the highest value. Imagine, nowadays, the interests of certain people are much more superior than the lives of millions of other people, or even of billions. And in the current climate and economic situation, we are already being told straightforward that there are too many of us, people. We need to be reduced from 8 billion to 1 billion, or even better, to 500 million. It is clear that they would leave themselves and a certain part of us as slaves who would serve them, but we can build a world. Precisely, a new format, the creative society, where even 50 billion will not be enough for this planet, and such a number of people can easily be fed, even during the transition period. They will have enough food and water, clean water, as well as money, goods, and everything else. And it's all very simple and easy. In order to do that, we should simply become people. Simply stop being afraid. Stop listening to the demon in our heads and hope that by sitting and meditating, or even better, let's talk about something good, right? So we will talk about something good. Sit, meditate, or pray. And it will all happen by itself. No, friends. One thing does not exclude the other. You can meditate or pray. But if you do not act in this world, if you live to the dictation of Satan, who says, don't talk about what is bad, talk only about what is good. When you talk about bad things actually happen. Don't you think that these are double standards from demons who dictate to you to keep silent about the truth, not to say a word to anyone, but to tell lies, that everything is splendid, while in the consumerist format, everything is getting worse and worse every day. As of today, there are plenty of climate problems for us. The Cerberus is already tearing our planet apart, and it is tearing it apart quite severely. The climate situation is getting worse every day. We see that, and it is true. So are we going to be silent about it? But in addition to that, the economy is suffering. There is inflation. Crises are coming now. Ordinary, man-made crises. As a result of redistribution of funds. I'll put it this way. It is when one group turns a huge number of people into beggars in order to become richer and have more power over them, so that those who became richer without permission return to their stall. Is that right? And should we be silent? Should we only talk about flowers? In other words, we, humans, are supposed to lie to each other, not telling the truth. I am for the world to be beautiful, and I am for us to have an opportunity to discuss what is improving and how much the world is actually getting better. But tell me, do we have such a reason? Answer honestly to yourselves. I'm against scaring people. We shouldn't scare people. To scare means to knowingly lie, to tell an untruth, a terrible untruth, so that a person is frightened and becomes even more deluded. That's what the demon does. While we do something else. We call things by their proper names. In the creative society, according to my personal conviction, only the truth should be paramount, and we should be guided solely by the truth. All mass media and everyone who addresses other people should tell the truth and call things by their proper names. Then we will know how many problems we have, what we need to change, and how we need to change it in order for these problems and those things which scare us to stop scaring us, so that problems stop being problems and the world would change for the better. We should call things by their proper names, and we should convey information to each other, because in reality, the demon says to people, sit, be quiet, don't be interested, Don't look in that direction. He controls the person and controls that information which the person receives. Thus, nowadays, a great number of people do not know the true cause of their future death. While death will be inevitable if we remain silent and do nothing. I mean, the Cerberus, that climate Cerberus, which is now simply destroying our world, at a time when some of us, knowing and understanding the situation, cannot say a word because their tongues are controlled by Shaitan. They can only say what Shaitan allows them. However, just like any person, they have the power given by God Himself in order to step over that Satan, to stop being Shaitan's slave, and to start living, start telling the truth, not to be silent and not to be afraid. After all, it is exactly fear instilled by the demon in a person's head that causes this inaction and evokes this very desire to hide from the system, so that the system doesn't see this person who is supposedly doing something. But you know, when a person encounters true spiritual knowledge, conscience awakens in him. And such people who have come into contact with spiritual knowledge have conscience, and it doesn't give them rest. They understand that if today they haven't done anything to save the world, they have brought the end of all humankind closer, and thus they are disappointing God. But the devil is so strong in them that he immobilizes them. So a person listens to Shaitan in his head, who says, sit and do nothing. At the same time, the person suffers from his inner problems with his conscience, saying, how can you do that? You're actually a human being. You do understand that this is good and wonderful. You do understand that you can change the world. You, exactly you, can take a step and familiarize many other people with the creative society. Thanks to them, even more people will be able to get to know the creative society. Thus, we will be able to build the creative society, and we will be able to put a tight collar and a short leash on the Cerberus. But if you keep quiet, we won't do that. His conscience tells him that, and a person suffers. And what way out did he come up with? Just to sit, meditate, and pray for other people, to recite proper mantras in order to glorify and build the creative society. And he is supposedly doing something. The devil is happy inside, and the person's conscience is seemingly clear, but it all is prompted by Shaitan. It is Shaitan who whispers in order to deceive a person, until a person steps over Shaitan inside. In his own fears, he won't see that the world can still survive, that each of us is actually a good person, and each of us really wants to live in the creative society. And most importantly, each of us wants to live in God's love. The only one who holds us back is Shaitan. And the only way to get rid of him is to take a step. Then, God's love will be all over the world, while everything starts with simple actions. Friends, let's just stop serving Shaitan, and let's just love each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, friends. Peace be with you.